Well, good morning if you're in Mountain Standard Time or Pacific Standard Time. The clock's changed. Who knows, right? Or good afternoon if you're in Florida, like my wonderful guest. And I am Bruce, aka the guy in the blue shirts. I'm known here on LinkedIn. And my method is simpler, faster, better. And I love to help people do process cleanups. So we were just chatting a little bit about some domestic process cleanups offline, right, Brianna? So let us know where you are. I think you're at one of your practices, right?
I'm actually in my Dr. Contact Lens shared office space.
Oh,
So
okay.
not at my practice today.
Oh, okay. Nice. All right. And which it's in Florida, right?
Yeah, we are in Fort Lauderdale.
Fort Lauderdale. Oh my goodness. We haven't shared that before. I've been to Fort Lauderdale before and walked the inner canal walkways. I used to have a friend that had an uncle that had a home there. So we went and hung out for a while in the inner I don't know what they call them. Is it inner waterways? I don't know what they call them.
Intercoastal, yeah. The
Intercoastal.
Venice of the West.
Aha, okay. All right. Well, good. See,
Yeah.
so I kind of can visualize where you're at. So anyway. Cool. Well, good. So we've chatted a few times offline, and just to give it some context, what a great story of the power of LinkedIn, right? Because we got connected through some mutual connections, and we just started commenting on each other's contents, and we've had some fascinating offline conversations to the point where I said to you, "Hey, would you like to be a LinkedIn Live guest? Because I think you've got some really interesting things to share around building teams and working with teams, particularly what I call cross-functional teams, or multidisciplinary teams is probably a better term in the medical profession, right?
Yeah, I've got 2 teams now that I have to manage, and they both run very differently.
Okay.
So,
Well, tell us a little bit about that. Number one, what the two teams are, and some of the differences you've observed, and some of the kind of interesting things that have happened from that.
yeah, so I have my private practice, private optometric practice. So we have a team of 11 of us there. So
Mm-hmm.
typical private practice optometrist, where we have patients, we have an office manager, we have front desk, we have opticians, we have doctors, and all of that functioning together. So
Mm-hmm.
we can see patients more effectively and make sure everybody's taken care of. And so there I wear more of my small business hat, because that's essentially what we are. So really not
Right.
a lot to scale there, because I'm not really looking to add more practices,
Mm-hmm.
to Dr. Contact Lens, which is a tech-based company, right? So I
Right.
have a CTO, I have a customer success management team, I have an onboarding team, I have a lot of still systems in place, but it's more of a scaled growth. So
Mm-hmm.
with that comes different problems and issues and different hurdles. And so I've had to become this CEO that I've never actually worked for, and had to emulate that through learning really, really expensive lessons there versus a small business.
Right.
So that's the 2 hats.
So you were a CEO in a growth market, maybe. Is that right?
Yes.
And
Hmm.
then you are kind of more like the anchor for your traditional practice. Would that be a good way of maybe positioning that?
Exactly.
Yeah. So where's the traditional practice? Is it in Fort Lauderdale as well?
Yep. We're in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay. And where do you run your growth contact lens tech company from?
So it kind of started there with probably a
Right.
whiteboard, as you can kind of see behind me. And
Yeah.
then during the pandemic, we were still kind of running it through there. And then we went into kind of hyper growth mode. And that's when we moved spaces and got our own little space and just a shared working environment, to
Hmm.
where we don't have to worry about lights and internet and it being somebody else's problem. So that's all
Right.
part of the rent, which has been really nice.
Yes.
And being able to focus on that hyper growth.
Right. So what do you mean by hypergrowth? That's an interesting term. I've heard it before, but it means different things for others. So
Yeah, so I'm looking back at this road for Dr. Contact Lens, and it again was that idea. Then we had to build it. Then we had to prove that it worked.
Right.
And then now we're in, okay, people have heard about us. Or I was just, at a conference and someone's like, oh, well, I've been looking at you guys for about 3 years here. And I'm like, okay, when are you going to actually make the jump? Right. So into that education piece, which I didn't realize that we were educating a segment of the eye care space in something that I didn't think needed education. And now other people coming in and writing those coattails has been very interesting.
Yeah, isn't it fascinating how long people spend what I call being a spectator in the stand, right? At like a ball game or any sporting event, or even at the theater, watching the theater. I find it absolutely amazing how long people spend in the audience before they decide to put their hand up and either say, "Hey, include me," or "Can I volunteer?" Or so. What are your thoughts on that? Why people spend so long in the audience, do you think? Just watching.
To be honest, it's something that I've had a hard time with.
Right.
Because I am one of those fast movers and always have been. And I thought that there were more people like me where they wanted to see change. They wanted to be a part of change. They wanted to be a part of breaking things and fixing it back. They wanted to be part of the competition and not be worried about the competition. And I find that actually is pretty few and far between, where a lot of people say that they are that, but then when push comes to shove, they're a little bit more apprehensive.
Right.
And I would like to see more people on the other side of it, but realizing you have to really build a relationship and trust there.
Right. Well, interesting enough, even though I'm in a completely different field, I think our stats might be really similar. And what I mean by that is what I found is there's only about 6 to 8% that will, as it were, stomach my approach and have the commitment to go after it, because making change, everyone thinks it's simple. It's not, particularly when you're cutting across using technology or new processes, or thinking about how we use people and technology together. It becomes super scary for most people, and they don't want to do it. So they like watching others do it. It's fascinating to them, but wanting to jump in is a whole different ball game. So I find that I only get to work with, sometimes it's lower than 6%. 6% of the people that I know need what I have or should be doing what I could guide them to do, what they won't do it. They will just want to sit in the audience and sit in the grandstand and watch others have fun doing it. And so it can be frustrating. So how do you overcome that frustration? Because I'm curious, because I get stuck in that kind of frustrating mindset from time to time. So,
well, I think being an entrepreneur, my baby just turned 1 actually this last weekend, and living back in that reflection of how far he's come, right? From being in the NICU, a 5-pound, 2-ounce baby,
right.
to now learning how to walk and talk and all the things and adventure and smiles, and just getting to live that again in the fun and all of this, growth, right? Because with kids at this age, you're looking at 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, and you can now go back a year and really reflect on how far that you've come. And I think the same goes over for business. So I was actually putting together another pitch deck, and I found one from like early 2020 when we were looking at raising some money. And when I found that old pitch deck, I was like, wow, moving things above this bar was like where we wanted to be and where we were as far as integrations and partnerships and things. And I kept moving like stuff above the bar. And I was living in that for a second of the day-to-day can get really mundane. The no's can get really exhausting, but I think you're probably like me, and the word no just means not right now. So if people would just figure it out sooner, we could have more fun. And just, I think reflection
Right.
came to mind. And I think it's hard to see the day to day or see that this big payout or that you're running really close on your burn um, gets really scary at times. But
Yeah.
if you can continue to live in the moment and know you're doing your best and showing up for everybody, then
Yeah.
you can keep
Yeah.
going forward.
Yeah. Reflection is, I think, a maturing skill, particularly as leaders. And, like myself, I'm kind of like your little one. I'm at 1 year of being completely, a solopreneur again. I was in a corporate environment, which was, not the best way to drive my talents and skills. And it took me a while to figure out that, hey, I needed to make the jump. I needed to jump the hoop and just go for it. And that's what I decided to do a year ago. So yes, I can relate to your little one. The first month I was definitely in the crib, not knowing what to do. And then by the third month I started to put my diapers on, and get going. And in the latter couple of months, I find that, I'm starting to toddle, a little toddler, go from place to place to place. And I'm sure next year I'm going to be walking faster and running a lot faster. So, and as you know, most people say it's in that 1 to 3 year mark, if you don't give up and keep going and, like you said, stay in the moment and then adapt to things as they progress. In year 1 through 3 is where the magic can happen and will happen if you just stick to it, right?
Yeah. And then I'm coming off of a travel stint. So I had many different conferences very recently. I was gone for about 3 weeks. So just home for like 2 nights at a time, then on to the next one. So it went
Right.
from this innovation summit with a bunch of CEOs,
Mm-hmm.
not very many ODs. So I toe the line, right? I have a private practice. I also sell to ODs. And so it's interesting
Right.
on building something and selling it and then seeing people that have gone up this corporate ladder, not really living in my environment, to a room really filled with a lot of people that were the ones telling me no, but still wanting to be these innovators.
Right.
And this whole really calling it not innovation, right? They're all like gung ho with innovation, to knowing that they're just going to go back to their own desks and
Right.
stay kind of on their path, right? Without,
Yep.
pushing any boundaries. So it's more of an innovation theater, right? Versus true innovation moving the industry forward, to then go into another meeting of really with it ODs, like-minded people.
Right.
That was kind of where I was like, oh, I've heard about you for 3 years. What are we doing? Very happy clients there. So people had heard about us. So I was, reflecting on the last 3 years of that conference and how far we came from not being a no one at all to now
Right.
having really happy customers, and then traveling once again to another type of conference and, seeing how they do little things.
Mm-hmm.
And again, happy customers, and then people actually making decisions on that sales floor was a really good way to end being away from my family for so long
Right.
on really the why of all of this. And it was an interesting couple of 3 weeks here.
Yeah. Isn't it amazing that you've probably just described a whole product or process life cycle right there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it is. It's like the 3 steps, you innovate and then you implement and then you stabilize, right? And from stabilization, you do the improvement. But again, I find it amazing. People always want to jump the steps, and I tell people that, the process or the outcome from every single process you see, whether it's personal, family, but it doesn't matter, faith, fun, sport, whatever, but the process will always get what it's designed to do. And people lose track of that sometimes. And then
Yeah.
the other fascinating thing I find is that, if you've got an output that you don't like, it could be low quality, a lot of variation, losing customer, whatever it is, what people don't realize is that is directly happening because of one of the inputs to the process is doing the same thing. So, if you're getting bad quality out the other end, no matter if it's in service, products, just people, whatever, it's because you've got bad quality going on the input side of the process, and it's not rocket science.
Well, I actually, Bruce, at one of the conferences, it was a Monday and a Tuesday. I had
Mhm.
changed my pitch from Monday to Tuesday.
Okay.
And it went from not being very successful to people actually now stepping in and wanting to learn more. My sister actually got to join me at that conference. It was very interesting. So here she is, this first grade teacher.
Right.
And at this particular conference, you get to kind of be around more of the attendees and be ingrained in what they're doing and just more real conversations versus just pitching all the time.
Right.
And it would be really cute to hear what she was saying to the attendees, being this, letting her guard or letting their guard down to her versus me, right? And they're like, my sister works really hard for you guys. Her company is amazing. You guys really need to do this. And then hearing their rebuttals would be like, I can't get my staff to do it. And her responses, right? Because here she is, this first grade teacher, able to take down these barriers. And I can't get my staff to do it. She's like, well, do you think that I let my first graders run my first grade class?
Right.
And that's exactly what you're doing with your staff. And I could just overhear what she was saying and just internally laughing because it's things that I want to tell people, but I can't without looking like a jerk, right? But
Well,
it's hard when you care so much about your product and see so much success,
right.
and you just want somebody to trust that. And the
Mhm.
whole process is right. If you buy a process or you buy a system like what we've built with Dr. Contact Lens, you can't skirt the process. There's a process, and if you say you're going to do it this way but this way and this way, you're going to call me frustrated in
Right.
3 months saying it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a trust factor there, and I think that comes along with it.
Right. Yeah, it's and not to harp on about variation, but variation is a common cause that will always destroy a process. And it could be people variation. I mean, it could be environmental, it can be fun. I mean, there are so many inputs that drive variation, but the one consistent one is people. And people variation, or I call it, because people say to me, well, Bruce, after all this years, what in a sentence, what do you do? And I say, well, it's 60% people engineering and 40% process. That's it. I have to, and it's not that I'm trained as a psychologist or a doctor, and I'm definitely not a doctor like you in the technical arena, but I've learned that it's the people first, and then the process follows, and just focus on the people and figure out, with their help, ideally, where's the variation coming from? How do we minimize the variation? And then a technique I use is put in place what I call flexible standard work. And what that means is no matter who is working the process, they get the same output or the same result, irrespective of the person that's pressing the keys or going and taking supplies and putting them away or matching up, you know, prescriptions to contact lens, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You can still have flexible standard work that still gives you the best and right answer. So that's
Yeah, and seeing that in my own practice with turnover,
Mhm.
we're all going to scale. Yes, people are a big factor of that, but it
Right,
comes to a teachable, consistent process.
right,
So I reflect back, 10 years ago from my practice, there was somebody that was hard calling every patient and confirming them for the next day or
right.
two, to
Mhm.
automation in that sector. So it wasn't that I got rid of her job, I got her doing better things with her
Yeah,
time. So we're going to build and scale with clicks and with technology that enable people to be people,
right.
not what robots can do or technology can do. And
Mhm.
that's where we need this human connection, especially as a healthcare provider, with so
Right.
much with telemedicine and all these things coming at us. Healthcare still is at the end of the day human and needs to stay
Right.
human. I want to be in front of my patients and use things like AI and other things to better take care of my patients,
Right.
but I still need to be looking at people in order to do the best of my job and make sure that the patients are taken care of.
You bet. And healthcare is so personal. Technology is great. People forget it's just an enabler to make us more productive or have a wider span of control or a longer reach as an individual human being. And again, I find that people get scrambled up. They think, oh, we'll put this new system in and everything will be okay. Well, if the system design is on the wrong inputs, then all you'll do is you'll process bad stuff faster and actually you'll get worse. And I've seen that over and over and over again. People have, done the sell around, oh, this technology will fix all your issues. Well, it makes it worse quicker. so yeah,
Yeah.
there's a difficult dilemma there with for a lot of people. And again, it's you raise the key word. It's about education and being informative and timely. And the other thing I find is getting people to understand that the only non-reworkable commodity is time. And once this second, like our second here, once it's gone, no matter what we say or do, Brianna, we can't get it back, right? So good, bad, or ugly, and it is what it is. So
Mhm. Yeah, with what's happening, I think, in the environment with so much at us all the time. So in my sector, right, contact lens ordering for patients, making
mhm,
money while you're sleeping, being there for patients while you're asleep is
right,
all a really big deal. And now other people coming into the market and other companies, it's been interesting how my colleagues are making decisions, right? They're
right,
falling for free. They're falling for these little rebates. They're falling for something that's short because they're looking at mine. Oh, you have to pay for Dr. Contact Lens, right? But this other one, I don't. So what are you giving up? You kind of hit it right there. What are you giving up in going with something for free or going with something that you know is tried and true to
yep.
skirt what, $8 a day? So it's kind of mind numbing when people are looking at what they're skipping over in
Right,
order to get their best bargain. And I
sure.
think that you can't be a bargain shopper in this environment.
Hey, it's a choice, right? I mean, there's lots of different brands out there, right? And we all can think of either something at home or something we enjoy. And I love cars. There's cars range in price, right? But the value proposition or what you get, is completely different, right? And the service that goes along with that is also completely different. And it's funny, I was in Mexico the last 11 days, a few days ago, and my colleague and I, we rented, the base model car. Well, the base model car in the Mexico market is you wouldn't get into it here. you know, it'd be like, you want me to drive that? And then when you do drive it, it's rattling. And we had one puncture, which we were on our way to our last day of doing the assessment. And actually second from last, and our time scale was pretty crunched because by then we're trying to cram everything in that we needed to do. And we go out to the parking lot and there's a flat tire on the car, so we go to change the wheel, and it definitely was not a pit stop like I'm used to seeing, that's for sure. There's two of us in the side of the parking lot of this hotel in a industrial Mexico City changing this tire, and we're thinking, well, maybe that was probably not a smart move to hire to get the base model rental car, right?
Yeah. Well, I think that goes with anything, right?
Yeah,
So I think what I'm seeing in these practices with private equity coming in and seeing how processes are, and oh, let
right,
me wait until I have this person in place to do this. There's a lot of wasted time, a lot of wasted energy
right.
that they are not understanding the value of all of that.
Hey, well, I'll give you a tip. So if your services are $8 a day, then you can either equate that to the equivalent time, based on the average full-time equivalent that you have to pay. So you can relate that to minutes and seconds. But what I found super helpful, and this is kind of a tip that I always get people across, that if they're not sure, if they're not trusting of the process I have, I'll get them to do two things. I'll get them to get the team together and say, hey, this week we're going to come up with, can you save a minute per day per person? Doesn't matter what it is. And then the other thing that you can do, if you don't want to do it in time, is just ask people, hey, can you come up with ideas to save $1 a day per person? Doesn't matter what it is. And like with you, you've got 11 in your traditional practice. Well, if each of those 11 people saved $1 a day each, there's your $11 to pay for the upper level system, right? And it comes for free. It really does. And it's amazing what people will come up with. I mean, we're not asking them to save $100 a day. I mean, literally, it's $1 a day, and there are countless, endless opportunities in any business. It doesn't matter how well run it is, to get the staff to be creative around, hey, I can save $1 a day, and they come up with the ideas, and you make it fun. You can put all the ideas in, like a big fishbowl, and that's where the idea came from. I used to use a process called Fish, which was based on the Seattle Pike's Place fish market, the famous. Mm-hmm. So you can have fun with it and still get to the point. So hey, the next time that somebody says, oh, I can't figure out how to make the $8 a day investment in your system, then just say, hey, get your staff to find $1 a day a piece, and there's the investment that you need. It's right there inside your practice.
Yeah, it's 100% true.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, and I know you're creative, so I think you're going to go away and have fun with that.
I might have a little too much fun with that one.
Well, but it's interesting because, part of the purpose of this, you having as a guest, was that, you've been working with some cross-functional and different team members at different maturity levels. And one of the things that fascinated me was that, you introduced the concept of, hey, can we be a little bit more personable, and can we introduce a little bit of play back into the work environment? So, and I know you've had some ups and downs with that. So what are some of the positive things that you've seen when you have been able to introduce a little bit more playfulness, not unprofessionalness, a little bit more playfulness into your practice?
Yeah, so if I go back to 2018, 2019, early 2020, we were jamming as a team. We had the perfect team. We were seeing patients every 15 minutes with 2 doctors, completely booked, to obviously pandemic hitting. We've never been able to get back to those pandemic levels. And if I look back on it, we made healthcare really sterile. The door was locked. Don't look at me. Put on your mask. You're not, wait in your car. Don't call me because we haven't called you yet. We made healthcare very transactional, and got away from being human and playing with each other, and also playing with our patients, being a destination for our patients. And I was able to actually take my team to Las Vegas for Vision Expo West, because I wanted to get back to this environment of us working as a team. It was really interesting because we had some pretty new employees and some really employees that have been with us a very long time, to see, oh, well, this person hasn't been here this long. Why are they getting to go on this trip? Right. So I had to overcome that mentality of saying, this is not a reward for how long you've worked here. This is a reward to move forward in our practice, to then coming back to a staff training and being able to actually say, I'm sorry, as a boss, of, wow, we really got away from making this fun and being here for our patients. Our patients are, gracing us with our presence, not the other way around, right? The door has been unlocked for quite some time. We did get rid of masks. We're honoring, when people want a mask on. So we're just listening to the customer and to the patient. And now I think we're on track here to get back to that.
So what was the funnest thing you've been able to reintroduce? And I know they're real small very often. So what's the funnest thing you've been able to get everyone to sign up for, as it were?
Ours is really making everybody's jobs easier, from what the doctor is saying into the chair to what the patient is hearing to what the staff is doing with all of that information. And when it comes to a process, that is a process.
Oh, yeah.
And seeing now just little changes in vocabulary, even answering the phone. Thank you for calling West Broward Eye Care, to thank you for choosing West Broward Eye Care. It gets you into more of a grateful manner than it does just, sit here, let me clean this, don't look at me, put on your mask.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you raise an interesting point, because as competition expands and improves, you are competing again for that non-recyclable commodity, people's time. I mean, yeah, you offer a service in terms of our vision and supporting activities, but it's a big ordeal for some people, and particularly the more you mature, and especially people without easy transportation, going to the eye doctor is a half a day investment. And if you think about that whole thing from end to end, that's a massive commitment of somebody's time, right? So
yeah, so I think it's making the most of all of that for both us as doctors, to the staff, and then of course to the patient.
Sure. Hey, I love your notion of destination. I love that. And in fact, you know how I'm going to talk about, which is Dr. Christy Nguyen, talking about a destination. I took the faith to fly down to go see Dr. Christy Nguyen in her practice there. And she made it totally a destination. She was very supportive of my special eye condition. She was very supportive of the fact that she knew that I came a long way to see her, and extraordinarily accommodating. She wasn't time watching. She wasn't clock watching. She purposely set my appointment for the last of her day so that she didn't have to rush. And then the added bonus is we went and ate ice cream together after. How about that?
Yeah.
What a great destination, right? Go to the eye doctors and then go have ice cream with the eye doctor. I mean, it was just, just totally unexpected. So blew my socks off, as it were, the old knock your socks off thing. So, yeah.
And we all have opportunities like that, which is exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's the very smallest thing, right? It's, maybe somebody's a little stressed out, and maybe you offer them, if it's a younger person, maybe you offer them a lollipop or something, or a coloring book, or just something that takes the stress and strain away from sitting in the chair. Because I know for me, sitting in the chair is not what I really want to do.
Yes, I can imagine.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so you finished touring, and the year is coming to a rapid close here. What have you got coming up that might be intriguing for people to learn from you?
Yeah, so I've got one more commitment for the rest of the year. So one more conference that I'm heading to, and then I actually kind of get to really build my own schedule. So
Right.
I think when you're on all these time commitments myself,
Yeah.
as with conferences and lecturing and what you have to do to get all those ducks in a row, it's hard. It's easy to live in like, oh, I've got this next week, I've got this next week. And now coming to the end of the year, really getting to kind of focus back on my family and getting ramped up for closing one year to now starting a new year,
Okay.
and what that's going to look like.
Where's your last public commitment?
It's in Orlando.
Oh, Orlando.
So,
Cool. And
yeah.
what is it? Do you want to promote it or not?
Yeah, so it's the New Innovations in Technology conference there. So
Hmm.
I'm presenting on myopia, which is my other passion that helped
Right.
change my practice and what I practice for. And then talking about presbyopia, then
Hmm.
to coming back home. So,
Yeah. Well, it's amazing. I love live streams because you always find out something in common with somebody that you never knew how you had in common. And the reason behind why I went to all the way to Florida to see Dr. 𝐿𝐶𝐚𝐲 is that she was the only eye doctor who really took an interest in my special condition. And prior to that was back in 2010. And I used to go to a guy called Dr. Scott McGregor, and he had a myopia clinic. Interesting enough, that was one of his specialties. And he unfortunately passed away, where he had his own technology around custom made contact lenses that I used to wear. So it was very interesting, when somebody, and he took an extreme interest in me. I mean, not a little interest. I mean, he was always so gracious with his time. He was amazing with his kind of in the chair manner, and he would always listen to, because I used to say to him, "Hey, there's something not quite right here," and then trying to define, well, what do you mean by not quite right? He would just patiently listen until I figured out how to describe to him in non-OD or non-eye doctor terms the sensation I was feeling, and often he would just go away and think about it, and he would say, "Hey, come back next week, and let's talk about it again." And that was the rapport that I have with him. And yeah, and since 2010, Dr. 𝐿𝐶𝐚𝐲, she's the only other eye doctor that I've not had to bluntly say educate in my condition.
yeah.
And that's
It's all
frustrating.
about listening to the patient, right? We're always thinking that we know better and without letting somebody finish. So I think that also goes hand in hand with your staff. So
Yep.
completely letting them finish a thought before you're jumping the gun
Right.
on how you're going to respond. And I think it's an active listening skill that many of us aren't practicing on a
Right.
daily basis.
Yeah. And I would actually add to that, funny enough, when you work in a country, I don't speak Spanish or Tex-Mex or anything. I understand, but I don't speak it. And it's funny, I spent the last 11 days recently not only actively listening, but really tuning into people's body language. So that's the observational things, and it was very interesting because the guy I was working with, he does speak Spanish and he speaks French. He's really good multi-language speaker, and he actually said to me, "Hey, just some feedback for you. It's really interesting when you're fascinated by a subject, your observational skills like go off the charts." So I find that very intriguing, and in fact, this morning I just recorded some of my little civic chats, and I'm going to do one on fascination, because it was really, nobody had ever told me that before. So it's like, I'm in the mature end of my career, and yet somebody who's not my regular, peer or person I work with makes an observation that is, very, very astute. And yeah, so people will do that if you give them time and space to let them do that, right?
Yeah, I love that. And
Yeah,
it comes to, again, just being in the moment.
right. Well, and also being open to, because when he said, "Hey, can I give you some feedback?" It's like, uh-oh. I thought, okay, what did I do? But it was a surprise. It was a great surprise that it was so positive. And again, I think our natural reaction is when somebody says, "Hey, can I give you some feedback?" We tend to gravitate towards the, "Oh, okay, what am I in trouble for? What did I do?" So
Yeah.
but he handled it really well. So he's
Yeah, it's the
super.
other thing to saying too, whenever you're having a conversation is, can I be honest with you? Right.
Right.
And I think I've now living on the sales side of things with my
Mhm.
colleagues, when you're you know the power of what I've crossed this bridge, and giving little tidbits of advice versus me just kind of blasting it all out from the rooftop, which is what I want to do, right? But that's not going to be very well received. But I wish people would ask more questions surrounding that, where we can really
Right.
bring together industry and bring together optometry, because the two things together are so powerful.
Right.
And there's got to be a better way than going into these crazy exhibit halls and being inundated with advice or sales or tactics, or
Right.
now paralyzed by decisions that you have to make, on going in with a clear path on what you want from it,
Right.
and leaning in.
Yeah, it's funny because we had that dialogue in two languages also about, hey, you're probably feeling like we're hitting you with a fire hose, when we were giving feedback. And what was interesting is the leader there, he has a very simple vision. He said, I want my business units to be best in class. And it doesn't matter what class he's talking about. So best in class might be in that zip code, it might be in their industry, it might be best in class on the planet. So he set the scene very nicely, because instead of us saying, hey, can we give you some feedback, we would say something like, what we've observed from other organizations is their best in class approach is this, this, and this. And so we converted the language, right? I don't mean from American to Spanish, but we converted the language to match up with his leadership language that he was using inside the company. And it's amazing because yesterday he worked on Sunday. So that gives you some idea what type of leader he is. Very astute. And he actually sent a one-liner saying, thanks, guys. It was like a master class in business development. That was his feedback to us. So it's like, wow, how about that?
Yeah. No, that's exciting.
Yeah, it is fascinating, exciting, all of those things. And he's invited us back. He said, hey, come back next year and I want to show you, how many and how much improvement I've made. So he's pretty competitive too, which is awesome. Not
I don't know
really,
what that word means at
I
all,
was
bro.
I was about to say you will not relate to that.
Competition. Yeah.
Competition.
Keep up, people. Keep up.
Keep up, keep up. Hey, it's about conversations that lead to connection, that lead to community, that lead to collaboration, aka competition. I don't know if you know that, but
There you go.
the 3 C's of business development. All right, Brianna, thank you so much. Please feel free to go back into the hashtag replay and add any links or cross communications that you want to have with people that are watching this on replay. And if it's okay with you, I can never remember what my pitch deck should say, so I have a little video. How about that? Simpler, faster, better. So don't go away.
You're frustrated that you have no time and you just hate it. You lost your mind. You're running around the kids and the spouse, and the business that was once your passion has got you burnt out. So, consult with Bruce, the guy in the blue shirt. He'll help you find the truth so that you can do you first. See, it's all about simpler, faster, better, so you can save massive amounts of time and money instead of longing for the day where you can finally kick your feet up. Do yourself a favor. Call up Bruce. He'll tell you about process cleanup.
Do you relate?
Totally.
Which animation were you in the video?
So right now I've been actually enjoying the fruits of my labor very recently. So even this morning, I took the morning off and played golf with my dad, who was in town, and I actually beat him by one stroke. Have never beat him. So it's again, I think, enjoying the moment and trusting people that you've put in place to do the work so you can enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, you reminded me of the lady on the beach in the white shirt right at the end.
That's what I was this morning.
Yeah, that's right. Good for you. All right. Well, thanks so much. I know your time is super valuable and you've been crunching lots of different things. So truly appreciate it. And please stay in touch and I will get you both the recording and the replay, and you can use it however which way you would like. Even if you want to use your staff or I don't mind. It's completely flexible. All right.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great afternoon. Thanks.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.